A year had quietly slipped by since Emily and I parted ways, and life had settled into a rhythm I hadn't anticipated. I had moved into a modest downtown condo, leaving behind the house that once held the echoes of our shared life. My days were unremarkable yet comforting. Work, a few books, occasional outings, but the stillness was precisely what I needed after the turbulence of our breakup. The final court proceedings had ended months ago, and since then, Emily and I had maintained a deliberate silence. Neither of us reached out. The wounds were too fresh, too jagged, and I convinced myself that distance was safer. I feared that meeting her would drag up old resentments we had buried, and perhaps for good reason. Then, on a chilly November evening, a knock at my door disrupted my routine. I wasn't expecting anyone. Opening it, I found her, Emily, standing there, hesitant, her eyes reflecting both determination and uncertainty. "James," she said softly, her voice trembling ever so slightly. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I asked, a mixture of confusion and caution in my voice. She fidgeted, twisting her fingers nervously. "I know this is sudden, but I need to talk to you. It's important." Questions surged through me. Was this a ploy to reopen old wounds? Or was something genuinely troubling her? Despite my hesitation, I stepped aside, and she entered, moving cautiously to the far end of the sofa. I took a seat across from her, the space between us heavy with everything left unspoken. "It's about my father," she murmured. Richard, her father, had never hidden his disdain for me. He had been a persistent source of friction during our marriage. Seeing Emily on the verge of tears, I realized the gravity in her voice. "He's very ill," she continued. "The doctors don't think he has much time left, and he's been asking to see you." I blinked, momentarily stunned. "Why would he want to see me?" "He wants to apologize," she added quietly. "He feels responsible for everything that happened." Her words struck a chord. The man who had consistently undermined me now sought forgiveness. A strange mix of disbelief and residual anger stirred inside me. "I don't know, Emily," I said slowly. "This is complicated." She leaned forward, almost pleading. "I understand, but it would mean so much to him and to me." I studied her face, searching for hidden motives, but found only sincerity, vulnerability, and quiet desperation. Against my better judgment, a fragment of my old care for her surfaced. After a moment, I nodded. "All right, I'll go." 2 days later, I stood outside Richard's hospital room, bracing myself for the encounter. Emily was beside me, calm and composed, while my own pulse thudded against my chest. At a slight gesture from her, I pushed the door open. Inside, Richard sat slumped in a chair, frail and diminished. The commanding presence he once had faded into a shadow of the man I remembered. Yet when he saw me, a weak smile broke across his face, eyes glimmering with emotion. "James," he said, voice unsteady. "Thank you for coming." I nodded, unsure what to say, torn between resentment and pity. "I've been thinking about the past," he continued, gaze fixed on mine. "I see now the harm I caused between you and Emily. I thought I was protecting her, but I only ended up hurting both of you." His words carried a weight I hadn't anticipated, awakening long-dormant pain. Still, hearing him acknowledge his role offered a strange relief. My throat tightened as I responded. "I appreciate you saying that. But it wasn't only you. Emily and I both made mistakes." A faint smile appeared on his lips. "Perhaps," he whispered, "but I hope an old man can still be forgiven." I felt the heavy press of years, then a lightening as I said firmly, "I forgive you. Truly." That moment became a turning point. For the first time in years, space for peace opened between us. Emily and I didn't slip back into old patterns, nor did we rekindle our romance. Yet over the next week, as we supported her father through his remaining days, an unexpected connection formed, mutual respect and quiet companionship. When Richard passed, we stood together at his funeral, not as husband and wife, but as two people who had endured, survived, and emerged changed. In the days that followed, our conversations were no longer about mistakes or regrets, but memories, lessons learned, and the journey we had traveled. The chapter of our romance had closed, but for the first time in years, I could look at her without anger, without pain, only acceptance. Months later, An envelope arrived from Richard's lawyer. Inside was a modest inheritance, accompanied by a handwritten note. James, thank you for forgiving me. Use this to start something new. You deserve it. As I read the words, I felt an unexpected release, a freedom I hadn't realized I needed. Richard's final gesture wasn't about money, it was about closure, peace, and redemption. And that night, when Emily had knocked at my door, I never imagined it would lead not to a rekindling of love, but to understanding, forgiveness, and the quiet closure I had long sought.